synchronicities. We were talking about synchronicities earlier. What's your take on that? What is it? What scientifically happens? What do you think? Because the reality is there isn't one, but here,
the reality of what?
The reality of our reality.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
So the reality of this reality is there really isn't that reality, but what we think is reality, certain things pop up and you're like, oh, what a coincidence. What a coincidence.
Sure. So if we can then start to describe reality in a slightly different way, such as the structure of the environment that we're in. And even if you want to call it the matrix, the environment that we're in, the energetic web of substance that kind of permeates our senses and
that we see anyway.
That we see.
Yeah. I mean, in between us is full of light and energy, and we just aren't seeing it. And I can show you pictures because I figured it out, which is pretty
But that's
amazing.
still part of our reality. The purpose of me saying that is that when we recognize kind of the structure of what reality actually is, then we can start to then structure our
what is
thoughts.
Reality actually is?
Well, reality is our perception of the energy nexus or web of infinite possibilities.
Matrix.
Yeah, the matrix. Yeah, the web, the goo that we kind of
I believe in ancient Egypt it was called the matter X, or an ancient
the netter.
What was the netter?
Yeah,
the netter. So when they're
netter,
when they're throwing the
net,
they're actually throwing. They're depicting they're throwing the web over.
Yeah,
reality.
That's a great. Nassim Haramein has a great show called The Black Hole. WHOLE. And he breaks it down like from a physics standpoint about the actual fabric of toroidal fields and Merkabas that are all connected together in an infinite web of infinitely dense.
Merkaba is
toroidal
fields. Know what it is? The Earth's toroidal field. Toroidal field as above, so below.
The Merkaba is basically two interlocking, rotating tetrahedrons that create a kind of a vortex of energy. And so,
got it.
It's so what we were talking about as far as reality, from a perspective of if I'm going to say, well, my reality is this, then you're absolutely right. That is your reality. You construct your reality based on either knowledge or ignorance. So your reality can be limited if you have limited ways of thinking, right?
Yes.
Now, from a higher perspective or from a higher level of knowledge,
if you were a higher dimensional being, you would think like. What you're about to lead into is basically what I'm saying. So you just said if you were to have a higher thought process, which is from a higher dimension, essentially that's what you're doing is you're elevating above to have a higher thought process that is not from you. So you're really accessing something else. That's what I'm saying. I'm leading you into that one kind of.
I don't know where you're leading.
Start over. Say it again. No. So you said upper dimension, higher thought process.
What were we talking about before we started talking about reality?
I don't know.
I think you were talking about saying that our reality isn't really our reality, and I can agree with that.
However, so what is our reality? That's what is it our reality?
Well, so what is our reality?
Which takes me to, here's we'll dub this in, I guess. What I'm trying to get to is back to Hermeticism, as above, so below, as within, so without. But there's another third verse, which is as in universe, as in soul. Do you know that?
I did not, but that makes perfect sense.
Right. So that one's conveniently left out because, well, what do you mean? Because as in universe, as in soul is pretty obvious.
Well, so it kind of is.
So what is it that's so what we, as within, so without. So is everybody controlling their own reality, or is it a projection, or is there a universal mind, or?
I think it's all those possibilities. And let me kind of break that down a little bit for you. As far as there is an existent reality that permeates all things. If we want to call it God, if we want to call it the Godhead, if we want to call it source consciousness,
we're coming back
it's
around,
universal. So the reality is God. There's nothing outside there.
There's something.
The reality is the all. Whatever other name you want to give the all. That is the.
This is what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's reality. However, you then have a unique perspective as a unique fractal point consciousness of that all. And within that all, you can perceive the Godhead or the all or reality any way that you want to. And how you choose to do that, either ignorantly through ignorance or through knowledge and mastery, is completely up to you. And so here's where we say, look, there's a structure to reality, and it's basically God or the Godhead or
Something.
the source of all creation. Now, how you want to interact with that reality is completely up to you. I can say, I'm going to choose to ignore that fact and be ignorant. I'm going to ignorant that. And I'm going to just bebop around, clumsily, tripping over myself, causing myself all sorts of problems, right? That's one way. And that's not bad. There's all sorts of, fun and frivolity that can be had with ignorance, right?
Because really, it's
ignorance. As you said before,
you're going to learn something. Yeah. Eventually, it's going to sink in.
Yeah. As you said before, cause and effect. That's an immutable law of nature, cause and effect. Now, if my cause is ignorance, then my effect from ignorance is going to be chaos and disorder, right? Because
so what you're saying is don't do dumb shit.
No, you can do dumb shit. Dumb shit's fun.
But if you fuck around, you're going to find out?
Yeah, you can fuck around and find out. Right. But it's all good. So this is not a morality judgment to say that that chaos or ignorance is bad. It's just simply to label it a mouth word to say having knowledge about or having information about the structure of reality is helpful. Not having the knowledge is not helpful, right? Can we agree on that?
I agree.
And if you then occupy your consciousness with the understanding of the all, as above, so below, as without, so within, then you will understand
as the universe, as in soul.
You will understand your inner workings. And it goes the opposite way as well. If you understand your inner working.
So if you're happy or sad.
Yes, but more importantly, if you understand why that is.
Okay.
Why is it? This gets into a point of, free will is one thing, because we want to have an interface that allows us to create infinitely, right? The only way we can create infinitely is if you give each infinite fractal the ability to create infinitely. So, but that's the only way you can kind of create infinite possibilities.
That's like the speed of light times the speed of light almost.
No, it's way more powerful than that. Way more powerful than that. And so,
I thought speed of light was like
the speed of light,
like those are the most powerful thing.
No.
All right.
So you're saying it's
yeah.
So when we as we talk
more.
about the Hermetic principles of correspondence, as above, so below, so as without, so within. If you spend the time acquiring the knowledge of your internal workings, both physically, emotionally, mentally, etherically, astrally.
Doing yoga, breathing, breath
such
work.
as what is the substance of your corporeal form? It's simply slowed down energy. Is that energy in an ease state? Is it in a dis-ease state?
Dis-ease would be code for disease.
Yeah, and or incoherence. It's kind of like if you think about a radio signal. If that radio signal is very statically, then that message is diseased. It's not. I'm not having ease listening to the static because it's interrupted with all sorts of other contamination, all sorts of other distortion.
When you say that, I visualize waves going through like a cancer cell or something. You know what I mean? When I think about that.
Yeah.
But if you have it,
and
then all of a sudden it's that wave and it hits something, which would be a cancer cell, right?
Yeah.
And there's doesn't like that. Otherwise, we just want that state to keep going.
Yeah. So if you send a harmonically, coherent, beneficial wave through a incoherent structure, it, due to sympathetic resonance, becomes more coherent and whatever. So if I'm listening to a bunch of death metal, then that's going to impregnate my cells with that type of energy, good, bad, or indifferent. And so I might get all pumped up and I want to go break things and just have a good time or whatever. But if you have a diseased cell that you want to have it regain its own homeostasis, then you pump it full of a benevolent, harmonious frequency. And because of that harmonic or sympathetic resonance, then the cell itself will start to resonate with that harmonic frequency. So understanding that,
sympathy.
In
sympathy.
So
same as, yes. Yeah, sympathy. So one does one, one does the other.
That some people...
Quantum entanglement.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So understanding that that these natural laws, such as correspondence, we can choose our own adventure. Remember those books back in the day? Choose Your Own Adventure? They're like paperbacks. They're like Dungeons and Dragons type stuff where you're like, okay, you're the hero. You decide to slay the dragon or save the girl.
Were they pop-up books?
No, they weren't pop-up books. They were books that you would then say, it says, if you choose to save the princess, go to page 79. If you choose to slay the dragon, go to page 84.
Alternate outcomes, right? That is a great analogy for work because the future, or not work, but life. the future. So now go watch this. You're back up on the cliff, right? And knowing that the future isn't decided yet, it doesn't exist. When you throw the rock in, you know you're the rock, and now you're up on the wave surfing, enjoying the effect.
No, for sure. That's a great point. Is that if we can understand the basic concept that your future is simply a continuation of the choices you make right now. So if I make a choice based on love and care and selflessness, then my future is a direct extension of that. If I choose to do the opposite, and one's not right or wrong, it just depends on what you're trying to create in your life. If you want to be a masterful creator, you can say, in this moment, I want to create harmony with my fellow human beings. And you make a choice that's coherent with that desire for harmony, then guess what? Your future can be nothing but harmonious in that instant. Okay. If you choose to do the opposite of that and say, I want to create separation, I want to create distortion, I want to create fragmentation, then your future is going to be a projection of that. That
sounded amazing. Go back and say that, but before the fragmentation, go back a little bit.
That if you make a choice that's based on fear, distortion, fragmentation, separation,
okay, then such as
I don't agree with you, okay, and I don't want to hear anything you have to say.
Okay.
That may create harmony in some weird way, but mostly it would create disharmony, right? Oh, but agreed. If I say, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Agreement. I may be a battle of wills in myself to say, I don't agree with that, but I understand the law of cause and effect. And I'm going to simply use my discipline to say, I'm going to suspend my reaction of judgment, my reaction of bias, my reaction of egotistical ideals.
And because
excuse me,
it's all mental. If you choose to be upset about it, you will. If you choose not to, you're just going to move on, and more fun things are going to happen because you're vibrating in a positive way, which is going to attract more positivity, which is do unto others, do unto you. Very made very famous. Can't remember who said that.
Jesus is probably one.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to get any copyright.
1.8 billion
Sorry,
people would agree. That's my Savior, Jesus Christ, the only one that's there. Like that. So, hey,
I don't want to trigger anybody out there.
I get it.
So I have another question. Whoa.
Yeah.
Did you know that the ancient Hebrew word for hang was N-A apostrophe A-L? Na'al.
Oh, that's interesting. So
what do you think Na'al turned into?
Nail? So you nailed to the cross, right?
Who got nailed to the cross?
Well,
nobody. He got nailed.
I think Mithra did.
Well, they say that we're going to go down that.
Krishna did, maybe?
They said that Jesus.
But in modern times, it's Jesus.
Right. But the first Bible was Hebrew.
Yeah.
And the word is N-A-A-L, which meant hang. And they actually have pictures depicted of Jesus being let down from the cross.
No, I love that.
So he was nailed.
There's so much juicy material in that thought right there that it's definitely.
But here's the kicker. It's all in your mind, bro. It's whatever you want it to be. Yeah. Mandela effect.
No,
explain that to me. I don't get it. People say, it's the Mandela effect. I'm like, what is that?
I think the Mandela effect is about parallel realities.
Okay.
Since it's like the fruit of the loom, it's like the
because
Betty,
what?
It's like Mrs.
Butterworth.
Mrs. Butterworth. It's like a.
What are we talking about? I just read your mind, homie. What were we talking about? Aunt Jemima.
You brought up.
You know what's delicious? Butter on pancakes.
What's delicious is Adderall, right?
I haven't done Adderall. No.
So.
All right, let's regroup.
Yeah. So when we talk about the choose your own adventure thing, so let's get back to the choose your own adventure.
Oh, okay.
If we can understand the fabric of reality and understand that we now can interact with this fabric, the structure, and
which our thoughts, our interactions with it, are inside. Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions are making the outside world what we want it to be: happy, sad, jumping for joy, or curled up on the ground.
Our perspective shapes the matrix in a way.
The net,
yeah.
Ancient Egypt is the net.
It has an effect on the all because we are part of the all. So us interacting with the all has an effect on the all.
Part of the all, or we are the all?
Well, we're not the all, right?
Well, everything in the all is the all.
Yeah. Well, if you'd say, I would say yes.
It all starts and ends with the all.
So if you say, so from that standpoint, we are the all. Yes.
So, I mean, that's what I mean is like, are we a shared world or a shared brain, right? Because there's that.
That's right. I like that.
And it's like consciousness exploration, I think is what that's what I was going to say earlier is I think that when we get together, it's like, what's going on? It's consciousness exploration.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to kind of describe it there is if we then say that we have an effect because we are the cause of our life. That then empowers us to then take control of our life.
So synchronicities are, again, you're standing up there in the cause and effect, you know, the wave's coming and it can't materialize. The wave's got to hit the beach. That's your reality. So E equals MC squared out there in the future, your whatever it is manifests because you have a thought, it travels like that. It materializes, you're working towards it. And those synchronicities are told to be like the bumpers and to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think in a way, synchronicities act as a...
what are the chances of synchronicities usually? Like the things that happen, like not very good.
Well, sure.
But they keep happening. So what would that be if you have a whole bunch of astronomical things that keep happening over and over? Is that still chance?
Oh, I don't.
By definition?
I don't really believe in chance.
Right. Yeah. So, well, by chance is like coins. But now I would say synchronicities, when you break it down, are really astronomical numbers like 12 septillion, 1 in 10 billion.
Well, hypothetically, if you have 1 million people living in Tulsa and it's like you go to, Sprouts and you're just like, oh, hey, Sally, what are the odds I didn't see you here? It's like, well, 1 in 1 million, right?
Okay.
So it's not astronomical. It's just, they're calculable.
Well, if I'm going to have surgery on my, what's that gland down there that you can milk?
Prostate.
Okay. If I was going to have prostate cancer and they said, I'm doing some research and they say, 999,999,000, right? They all agree that this is the surgery, but then there's this one guy and I'm like, this, I think you're due, brother. I'm probably not getting the prostate surgery with the guy that's the one against the 999,900.
Sure. if you want.
What are you talking about?
Unless he was right up your alley or something.
So back to you getting anal jokes again? No, right up your alley. I was talking about prostates and you went to right up your alley.
They're
My God.
Your anal jokes are right up your anally.
Carry on.
Yeah. So if we can recognize that we can then be the architects So you were talking about frequency. It's like frequency is, or not frequency, synchronicity. So synchronicity is simply a concurrence of the frequency that you emit. So if I start thinking about, hey, I'm thinking about health and wellness, all of a sudden I start drawing things based on my frequency, or it seems like it's drawing, but they're just starting to separate themselves out based on frequency. So if I'm thinking about how I can become healthier, it's not at the McDonald's, And so when we say, oh,
that's what you were saying earlier about being around people with energy or wanting more love, being around people with more love.
Yeah. So if you're putting out a frequency of lack, then that's what you're going to attract. If you put out a frequency of abundance, then that's what you're going to attract. If you're putting out a frequency of I want to make myself better, then the universe is going to provide synchronicities that help you support that goal because you've constructed it in your mind from a higher source. You've created a blueprint for your success, but in your egotistical form, not yours, but everyone's egotistical form, you're not clever enough to think of the myriad of infinitely possible ways to construct that. The universe is based on frequency. It's like a super intelligence, but it's a divine intelligence. So you don't call it super intelligence. It's more of a divine intelligence that we can't quite understand yet because we're still operating from the sense of ego. But when we have moments of enlightenment, we're like, I see how everything's connected. And I see how all the synchronicities were weaved together by my creation. So we don't see it as, oh, wow, look at the synchronicity. And we then say, oh, it's all. We look at it
that's what I'm saying.
So thank you, universe. You've constructed the exact scenario that I envisioned.
So that's the point I was trying to make. And I'll come back to it. Thank goodness. Those synchronicities, what people realize, oh my gosh. Mathematically, one of those things happening is like, again, 1 in 20 million. Then another one happens and another one happens. Well, the chance is gone, right? It's no more chance. Now you have to realize that something is happening and it keeps happening. What is that? And my point is everyone in this room is going to have some of those things and we're all supposed to be individuals. We all have the same experience, whether it be synchronicities, deja vu, or
some of this may be just...
so we're sharing the same mind, or I then thought somebody out there, they are who they are. And I think we had a conversation about first person players.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Maybe to get that one. I don't know. Quite ready for that one. I think I might have to.
You need breaks often.
No, I'm saying we're going to come back to that. So we go into this, it's going to go in that direction. Where were we right before that? I had it. It was perfect.
Well, we were just talking about synchronicities, and what I was leaning in towards is that as we recognize the occurrences in life as being connected somehow, then we are on our way to recognizing that we are the cause of that interconnection.
Right, which goes back to the Hermetic principles that you know that when you see those synchronicities, that's the cause and effect in the universe. Wherever out of the ether is materializing something for you to see in this reality for you to, because otherwise you're thinking it. You actually need to see with your own eyes. So that synchronicity is that thing. And once you realize the mathematical chances of that, you're going, wow, that's pretty cool.
How did that happen? I would agree that not just see it, but experience it through some data input, whether touch it, smell it, taste it, hear it.
Right. It's something that person just had an experience and go, I've seen and heard of things, but I just had this happen that I can't like.
Yes, from a sense of understanding, from a sense of knowledge that everything's interconnected versus a standpoint of complete separateness and denial of that fact, complete ignorance of that. We would then say, oh, that's all chance. That's all chance. Because of my ignorance, I'm saying chance. But through knowledge, I understand that there's no such thing as chance, that everything is interconnected because, as you said before, everything is the all, right? Mm-hmm. So everything is. Even if you go back to the Big Bang, everything was a infinitely small point of energy, and then it expanded. So is it somehow separate because it expanded? No, it's connected because everything is connected because it's still part of the all. Even if you take the all and expand it, it's still the all. So if I'm a point in the all here, then I'm a point in the all here, right? And so is everybody else if they're a point of the all. And so I'm interconnected to all aspects of the all, and to the degree that I can
we've said this before, that there was a thing about I wanted to get that tattoo of the 7 Hermetic principles on my...
Yeah.
And I'm not really a tattoo guy. Never thought I've improved myself, really. Kind of like the way that I am. But I wanted to get this tattoo. I'm like, I'm going to get it on my ribs. But I'm like, I can't think of the font, right? And it was the same thing that you guys had written in your boardroom. 7 Hermetic principles on the wall, 1 through 7.
Well, some of these
that was consciousness, and I said that's when I said, yeah, it's the consciousness. We're trying to do something about consciousness cleanse, and on the wall it said, consciousness. Are you conscious or conscious?
Do you care?
Consciousness, do you care?
Yeah.
And so I realized that those were your thoughts because I don't. I'm like, me and Langley are going to get the same tattoo. Well, I don't think. Do you have a tattoo?
I just have this one.
Yeah, it's the only one that I've got. That was my ex-wife. She actually put it on and took it off, and you can't get blue out, so I'm married to the Seahawks. That's it.
And so
fandom.
Yeah, was there? So I think synchronicity is simply just
do you ever feel going
a feeling
into
that you then say that, oh wow, I'm on the right path.
When you go into stadiums, do you ever feel the energy in there? Like,
for sure.
Like going to Seahawks Stadium, right?
For sure. That's to go into a pro sporting event is it's an experience in and of itself, and I highly recommend doing that just to experience the
earplugs now,
the visceral sensation that your body just vibrates. Like going to a concert and being up in the front row right next to those box speakers. And Jeremy even talked about that. The other Jeremy talked about that earlier. And it's part of this is that we have options to say, oh, I want to become enlightened, but at the same time, I'm here to experience all the material sensations and vibrations and experiences that are here to experience as a material being. But we've gone so far off the deep end to then say, well, I'm not anything else other than this meat sack body, which is fine, but we're missing out on the whole opportunity to experience all of the physical world from a point of higher consciousness, from a sense of like, wow, I helped create this, from a sense of reverence.
So everyone everywhere is helping creating this so that where we go, they've already seen it, kind of like it's mapping for the first time. Because I often thought about the universe, how it's expanding, and it's it's expanding at the speed of thought. Sure. So our thoughts are the universe expanding.
Have you read any work by Walter Russell?
Probably heard some quotes.
So it's expanding at the speed of thought, but it's also contracting at the speed of thought. So how is that possible? Well, That's just a simple exercise for overcoming duality. It's like if the universe is expanding, well, how can it be simultaneously contracting? It's like, wrap your head around that, and then you'll start to understand how we're going to, the requirements for interacting in the higher dimensions. To say that it's not this or that, but this and that simultaneously. Why? Because everything is possible simultaneously.
That's a heavy one.
It is.
Your future's not chosen. I was often, or not chosen, it doesn't exist, just like the past doesn't exist. And I can't remember where I heard this, but if you say the word now. It's already past. So thusly you're.
It's happening now.
Past, gone.
Now.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So we just keep perpetually doing now. No. Yeah.
Who would be right?
It's not about being right or wrong.
Why? Because it's the all.
Yeah.
Right back to rule one, bro.
Well, again, so falling into the trap of right or wrong, you would then say, oh, okay, I'm slipping back into duality, which is totally fine.
So there is no right or wrong. You're just choosing now. That would be a different one.
Well, I would say this. There is no right or wrong, or there is only right and wrong. Either way, either decision,
you're right.
Either choose your own adventure book, limitation or unlimitation, you get the results that you focus your consciousness on.
Where the mind goes, energy flows. So, is that what you just said?
Yes.
Why is that funny?
Yeah.
Why are you laughing at me? You're making fun of me?
I'm not making
Jeez,
fun of
I'm here. I'm opening up to you, bro.
Yeah. No, I like
more quality time in the sauna.
No, I'm just simply laughing because I like your distilled. And so we like to thank you for joining us today. And we'll probably have Mr. Gibbons as a general,
a recurring
a recurring fixture on the Eye Opening Podcast. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Eye Opening Podcast.